The vast meeting chamber of the Galactic Assembly fell silent as Captain Tom Reed stepped forward. The blue light from the enormous dome above cast shadows across his face, making his determined expression look even more serious. He stood tall, in his crisp Earth Defense Force uniform, the small blue and green Earth patch on his shoulder seeming very small among the grand symbols of the alien civilizations around him. "Esteemed members of the Galactic Assembly," Tom began, his voice steady despite the hundreds of alien eyes watching him. "On behalf of Earth and all humanity, I thank you for welcoming us to this gathering of spacefaring peoples." Behind him stood his crew from the ship Perseverance, 6 humans who had traveled farther than any others in recorded history. Among them was Kay Wilson, the ship's chief engineer, a woman with short gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. While Captain Reed spoke, Kay watched the aliens closely, noting their reactions. The assembly chamber held representatives from 17 different species, each with their own section. Most impressive were the Stellar Covenant delegates, tall, beings with silvery skin that seemed to shimmer in the light. Their leader, Ambassador Vex, sat at the center of their delegation, his long fingers tapping impatiently against the smooth surface of his chair. When Tom finished his short speech, the room remained quiet for a moment. Then Ambassador Vex stood, his height nearly twice that of a human. He moved to the center of the chamber with a grace that made him appear to be floating. "We welcome Earth to this assembly," Vex said, his translator device giving his words a metallic tone. "It is always interesting to meet a new species that has just discovered the basics of space travel." Several of the alien delegates made sounds that the humans' translators identified as laughter. "You have done well to reach us with such primitive technology," Vex continued, not hiding the mockery in his voice. "Your warp drive design is particularly amusing. We have not seen one so basic in many centuries." Kay Wilson frowned and stepped forward to stand beside her captain. "Our warp drive got us here safely," she said. "It meets all our needs." Vex's mouth stretched into what might have been a smile. "Of course it did, but you should see how a proper drive functions. Your design is dangerously unstable, a child's drawing compared to true engineering." More laughter rippled through the chamber. Tom maintained his diplomatic smile, but Kay could see the muscles in his jaw tightening. "Perhaps the Stellar Covenant would be willing to share some of their expertise," Tom suggested, keeping his voice level. Vex made a sweeping gesture with his long arm. "We would be delighted to guide your species toward proper technological development. It is, after all, our duty to help the less advanced." After the formal meeting ended, the human crew was shown to their quarters in the assembly station. The rooms were large and comfortable, but Kay couldn't relax. She paced back and forth while Tom sat at the small table, reviewing notes on his tablet. "They treated us like children," Kay said, unable to hide her anger. "Did you see how they laughed at our ship designs?" Tom nodded. "I saw. But we need their goodwill if Earth is going to join the galactic community." "Something felt off about their technology," Kay said, stopping her pacing. "When they showed us the schematics of their warp drive, I can't explain it, but it seemed familiar somehow." Tom looked up from his tablet. "Familiar? How?" "I don't know exactly." Kay frowned. "But I'd like permission to review our historical engineering archives. There's something about their design that reminds me of something I've seen before." "Do it," Tom said. "Any edge we can get in understanding their technology will help us." Later that night, while most of the crew slept, Kay sat in her quarters surrounded by holographic displays. She had accessed the Perseverance's complete engineering archives and was searching through historical designs. "Computer, show me warp field theories from the 21st and 22nd centuries," she said. The computer displayed dozens of theoretical designs from Earth's early attempts at faster-than-light travel. Kay spent hours comparing them to what she had seen of the Stellar Covenant's technology. At 3:47 ship time, she found something that made her sit up straight. "Computer, overlay this João Martinez warp field theory from 2138 with the Stellar Covenant design we saw today." The computer combined the images, and Kay's breath caught in her throat. The basic structures were almost identical, The alien design had more complex elements, but the core principles, the way the field was generated and maintained, matched the human design from over 2 centuries ago. Kay immediately called Captain Reed. "Tom, you need to see this," she said when he answered, his face showing he'd been asleep. "I think the Stellar Covenant's advanced warp drive is based on human designs." 20 minutes later, Tom stood in Kay's quarters, staring at the holographic displays with wide eyes. "That's impossible," he said. "The João Martinez theory was never successfully built. It was abandoned as too unstable." "Exactly," Kay said, excitement in her voice. "But look at the field containment structure in the Covenant design. It's the same basic approach, but with some modifications to improve stability. But the foundation, the core concept, that's human work." Tom shook his head. "How could aliens from across the galaxy be using technology based on human designs that never even made it past the theoretical stage on Earth?" "I don't know," Kay admitted. "But there's more. Look at these." She pulled up several other comparisons: communication systems, shield designs, and power distribution networks. In each case, there were striking similarities between the alien technology and abandoned human theoretical designs from the past 2 centuries. "This can't be coincidence," Tom said, finally accepting what he was seeing. "But how? Did they steal our design somehow?" "I don't think so," Kay said. "These human designs were all theoretical. Most were abandoned as impractical or replaced by better approaches. Why would advanced aliens steal failed human theories?" Tom rubbed his face, trying to process what this meant. "We need to report this to Earth Command immediately, and we need more information." "I agree," Kay said. "But we should be careful who we tell here. If the Covenant realizes we've noticed the similarities..." Tom nodded. "We keep this between us for now. Tomorrow we'll accept their offer to guide our technological development. That should give us access to more of their designs. And I'll keep digging through our archives," Kay added. "There's something bigger going on here. I can feel it." As they spoke, on the other side of the station, Ambassador Vex was meeting with the Stellar Covenant High Council via secure transmission. "The humans show no sign of recognition," Vex reported. "They accept their place as technological infants." The shadowy figure on the screen nodded. "Good. Keep them ignorant. If they ever discover the truth about their past..." "They won't," Vex assured the Council. "How could they? That knowledge was lost a millennium ago." But even as he spoke, Kay Wilson was pulling up another file from the depths of Earth's historical archives. A theoretical paper written by a forgotten engineer in 2103, describing a revolutionary approach to interstellar travel. An approach that the Stellar Covenant now claimed as the pinnacle of their own technological achievement. The truth was beginning to emerge, one ancient file at a time. Dr. Alex Morgan wiped sweat from his forehead as the hot desert sun beat down on the dig site. The Atacama Desert in Chile was one of the driest places on Earth, which made it perfect for preserving ancient artifacts. But it also made it a challenging place to work. "Water break, everyone," Alex called to his team of 12 archaeologists and workers. As they gathered under the large shade tent, a young assistant named Jack rushed up to him, excitement clear on his dusty face. "Dr. Morgan, you need to see this right away," Jack said, nearly out of breath. Alex followed Jack to the eastern edge of the dig site where ground-penetrating radar had detected something unusual the day before. Now, a 2-meter-wide hole had been carefully dug, revealing what looked like a metal hatch. "We just uncovered it 10 minutes ago," Jack explained. "It's unlike anything we've seen before." Alex knelt beside the hole. The metal surface was smooth and showed almost no signs of corrosion despite being buried in the earth. Most striking was a symbol etched into its center, a design that looked remarkably like the modern United Earth emblem, but with subtle differences. "This can't be right," Alex muttered, brushing sand away from the edges of the hatch. "This metal alloy looks advanced. Maybe titanium-based, but with something else mixed in. Nothing like this should be here." "How old do you think it is?" Jack asked. "I have no idea," Alex admitted. but we're going to find out. Within hours, the team had fully exposed the hatch and was preparing to open it. They set up lights, cameras, and sensors to document everything. Alex felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness as he turned the large handle that had been uncovered. To everyone's surprise, the mechanism moved smoothly, as if it had been maintained recently. With a hiss of equalizing pressure, the hatch opened. "It's been sealed this whole time," Alex whispered in amazement. "Airtight after all these years." Below the hatch was a metal ladder leading down into darkness. The team lowered lights, revealing a corridor that stretched beyond their air visibility. 3 days later, Alex sat in a secure video conference with government officials from around the world. On his tablet were thousands of photographs and scans taken from what they now knew was a massive underground facility. The carbon dating results came back, Alex explained to the grim-faced officials on his screen. Multiple samples all confirm the same timeline. This facility was built and sealed approximately 1,000 years ago. "That's impossible," said the United Earth Science Director, an older woman with streaks of gray in her dark hair. "Human civilization didn't have this level of technology 1,000 years ago. We're talking about the early Middle Ages." "I know what history tells us," Alex replied. "But the evidence doesn't lie. This facility contains technology that in some ways exceeds our current capabilities, and there's more." He paused, selecting a specific image on his tablet. "We found documentation, actual physical books and data storage devices that we've been able to partially recover." Alex shared his screen, showing pages of technical diagrams and text in an archaic form of English. These documents suggest that humans achieved interstellar travel a millennium ago. They built ships capable of reaching nearby star systems. But then something happened. Some kind of event that made them abandon this technology and bury all evidence of it. The officials began talking all at once, voices raised in disbelief and concern. Alex waited for them to quiet down. "There's one more thing you need to know," he continued. "Yesterday I received a highly classified communication from the crew of the Perseverance at the Galactic Assembly. Their engineer, K. Wilson, has discovered striking similarities between alien technology and theoretical designs from our own history. But what Wilson found in Earth's archives, we've found built and functional in this facility." The room fell silent. "Are you suggesting," the defense minister finally asked, "that aliens stole technology from an advanced human civilization that existed 1,000 years ago? A civilization that our history has no record of?" "The evidence points to something like that," Alex confirmed. "Though we don't yet know if it was theft or something else. What's clear is that there's a connection." The next day, a military transport landed near the dig site, bringing Captain Tom Reed and Kay Wilson back to Earth. They had been recalled as soon as Alex's initial findings were reported. Alex met them at the entrance to the underground facility, which was now surrounded by security personnel and scientific equipment. "So this is where our past was buried," Tom said as they descended the ladder into the facility. "It's incredible," Alex told them as they walked through the corridor. "The preservation is perfect. It's like they sealed it yesterday, not 1,000 years ago." The corridor opened into a large room filled with what were clearly workstations and equipment. Kay walked immediately to what appeared to be an engine design station, her eyes wide with recognition. "This is it," she said, touching the surface of a display that had been dark for centuries but had recently been powered up by the research team. "These are the same field equations I found in the Stellar Covenant's warp drive. But these are more refined, more complete." Tom examined other parts of the room. "Why would our ancestors hide this? And why don't we have any record of this civilization in our history?" Alex led them deeper into the facility, to a room they had only recently unsealed. Inside was what appeared to be a meeting chamber, with a large table in the center. On the wall was a massive display showing star maps. "We think we found the answer in here," Alex said. He activated a data tablet they had managed to interface with the ancient systems. "This contains records of a meeting, the last meeting, held in this facility apparently." The three of them gathered around the tablet as Alex played a recovered video file. The image was grainy but showed people dressed in uniforms sitting around the very table they were standing near. The power source is fundamentally flawed, a woman in the recording said. Her language, an older form of English that was still understandable. The more ships we build, the greater the risk. We've already lost the Ganymede colony. If we continue, we could destabilize space-time throughout this entire sector. So we just give up? Another person asked angrily. Abandon everything we've built? Not give up. Pause, the woman replied. We hide our technology until we can develop a safer alternative. We remove all traces from public knowledge. Let humanity develop more slowly, more carefully. When we rediscover space travel naturally, perhaps we'll be wiser. The recording ended, leaving Tom, Kay, and Alex in silence. They deliberately erased themselves from history, Tom finally said, to protect us. And now we're using the same dangerous technology again, Kay added, only we're getting it secondhand from aliens who don't seem to understand the risks. There's more, Alex said, his face grave. We found design specifications for their power source. It creates energy by tapping into what they called subdimensional space. But their notes warn that without proper containment, it can cause cascading failures that tear apart the fabric of reality itself. Kay's face paled. The Stellar Covenant's ships all use a power source they call a dimensional tap. It's the one system they were most secretive about. She looked at Tom. We need to warn them. Will they even believe us? Tom asked. Before anyone could answer, Alex's communication device beeped. He answered and listened for a moment, his expression growing concerned. What is it? Tom asked. A message from the Galactic Assembly, Alex replied. A Stellar Covenant colony on Proxima Centauri 2 just reported a critical power system failure. Their main reactor is destabilizing. Kay looked at the ancient warning displayed on the tablet. It's starting, she said quietly, just like our ancestors predicted. Alarms blared throughout the underground facility as Alex, Tom, and Kay rushed to the main research area. Scientists and military personnel moved quickly, setting up communication links with Earth Command and the distant Galactic Assembly. What exactly is happening at the Stellar Covenant colony? Tom asked, his captain's training keeping his voice steady despite the crisis. A communications officer looked up from her station. Reports are fragmented, sir. The colony on Proxima Centauri 2 is experiencing power fluctuations. Their main reactor is showing signs of instability similar to what we just learned about in the ancient records. Kay pushed her way to a workstation where she had been examining the old human technology. We need to understand exactly how the ancient humans contained these failures, she said, her fingers flying across the interface. There must be emergency protocols in these records. Alex joined her, pulling up the translations they had made of the ancient documents. Here, I said, pointing to a section of text. They developed a containment procedure after the Ganymede incident. They called it Protocol Firebreak. Kay read quickly. This is it. They found a way to stabilize the reaction by inverting the dimensional field and creating a controlled collapse. She looked up. But the equipment needed to do this. Would we have time to build it? Tom asked. Kay shook her head. Not traditional building, no, but... She turned to Alex. Did you find any actual equipment in this facility? Not just plans, but working technology? Alex nodded slowly. Yes, in the lower levels. We found what appears to be a small ship with its power core intact. We haven't activated anything following safety protocols. Take me there, Kay said. Now. 20 minutes later, they stood in a large chamber that had remained sealed for a millennium. In the center sat a sleek vessel about the size of a modern shuttle. Its design was both familiar and strange, clearly human in its basic shape, but with technology that looked both advanced and somehow ancient at the same time. Kay walked around the ship examining its outer hull. This is incredible, the workmanship. It's perfect. She found what appeared to be an access panel and placed her hand on it. To everyone's surprise, the panel slid open, responding to her touch. Biometric security that still works after 1,000 years? Alex whispered in amazement. Maybe it's not keyed to specific individuals but to human DNA in general, Kay suggested. She peered inside the open panel. This is what we need, the containment module for their dimensional drive. If we can get this to the Covenant colony, we might be able to adapt it to their systems. Tom was already on his communication device. Earth Command, this is Captain Reed. We need immediate authorization to remove technology from the ancient facility and transport it to the Perseverance. The Proxima Centauri colony is in imminent danger. The response came quickly. Authorization granted, Captain. All resources are at your disposal. Save those people if you can. Within hours, the small ship had been carefully extracted from the facility and transported to the landing field where the Perseverance waited. Engineers worked frantically to remove the containment module, while Kay studied the ancient technical manuals. Tom found her bent over a workstation, surrounded by both modern and 1,000-year-old technical documents. "Will it work?" he asked, quietly. Kay looked up, her eyes red from strain. "The principles are sound. This technology it's brilliant, Tom. Our ancestors understood the dangers of dimensional energy better than the Covenant does now." She rubbed her eyes. The containment module creates a controlled inversion that can safely collapse an unstable reaction. But there's a problem. What? The Covenant modified their power cores. They took our ancestors' design and improved it without understanding the fundamental principles. Their changes made the reactors more powerful but also more dangerous. She gestured to the screen. "I need to modify this containment module to work with their altered design." "Can you do it?" Tom asked. Kay nodded slowly. "I think so. But we'll need help from their engineers when we get there. They'll have to trust us enough to let us access their systems." "After the way they mocked us, that won't be easy," Tom said. "They might change their attitude when their colony is about to be destroyed," Kay replied grimly. 2 days later, the Perseverance dropped out of warp near Proxima Centauri II. The planet's night side was visible, its cities glowing with artificial light. But one area on the northern continent pulsed with an unnatural blue glow. "That's the main colony," Tom said from the captain's chair. "The reactor facility is in the center of that blue light, sensors showing massive energy fluctuations." "The dimensional barriers are already breaking down," Kay said, looking at her readings. "We don't have much time." When they established communication with the colony, Ambassador Vex's face appeared on the screen. Gone was his superior expression, replaced by barely controlled panic. "Captain Reed," he said, surprise evident in his voice. "What are you doing here?" "We picked up your distress signal," Tom replied, not mentioning the ancient facility or how they really knew about the crisis. "We've had experience with similar power systems and might be able to help." Vex hesitated only briefly. "We would welcome any assistance. The situation is critical. Our best engineers can't stabilize the reactor." "We're bringing a specialized containment device," Tom said. "Engineer Wilson will need full access to your systems and cooperation from your technical teams." "Granted," Vex said immediately. "Please hurry." When they landed, the situation was worse than they had feared. The colony's reactor building was surrounded by a shimmering field of blue energy that warped the very air around it. Covenant civilians were being evacuated, while engineers worked desperately at control stations. Ambassador Vex met them at the landing pad, his silver skin now pale and dull with stress. 2 million people live in this colony," he said without preamble. "We've evacuated half, but there's no time for more. Our scientists say the reactor will reach critical failure in less than 3 hours." Kay was already directing the unloading of the ancient containment module. "Take me to your main control center," she told Vex, "and I need your best engineers." In the colony's control center, Kay quickly realized how dire the situation was. The Covenant engineers had been trying to shut down the reactor using standard protocols, but those methods were actually making the instability worse. "You need to stop what you're doing," she told them firmly. "Every attempt to power down is creating more dimensional fractures." The lead Covenant engineer, a tall female named Lear, looked at her with distrust. "How could you possibly know this?" Your species has barely mastered basic warp technology. Instead of arguing, Kay pulled out a tablet and showed Lear the ancient schematics they had brought from Earth. These are the original designs your power core is based on. Your version has modifications here, here, and here, she said, pointing to specific sections. Those changes have removed critical safety systems that were designed to prevent exactly this type of cascade failure. Lear stared at the schematics, her expression changing from dismissal to shock. These designs, they're human, but they're far more advanced than anything your species has produced. They're from our past, Kay said simply. A past we're only now rediscovering, but right now that doesn't matter. What matters is stopping that reactor from destroying this colony. Lear studied the containment module the humans had brought. This might work, but we'll need to modify the connection points to interface with our systems. Then let's get to work, Kay said. We have less than 3 hours. As humans and aliens began working together for the first time as equals, Ambassador Vex pulled Tom aside. These designs, he said quietly, they really are human in origin? Tom nodded. From about 1,000 years ago, our ancestors built this technology, then abandoned it because they recognized the dangers your people have rediscovered. Vex's expression was unreadable. The Council will not be pleased to learn this. The truth is often uncomfortable, Tom replied. But right now, let's focus on saving your people. Outside, the blue glow around the reactor building grew more intense, and the ground beneath them began to tremble. The race against time had begun. The reactor control room hummed with frantic activity. Kay Wilson stood at the central console with Lear, the Covenant's chief engineer. Both of them were covered in sweat, their hands flying over the controls as they worked to integrate the ancient human containment module with the alien system. The power fluctuations are getting worse, Lear reported, her silver skin reflecting the pulsing red emergency lights. Dimensional fractures are appearing throughout the facility. Kay nodded grimly. She could see the readings herself. The reactor was tearing holes in reality. Through the control room's reinforced windows, she could see the main reactor chamber, where the air itself seemed to ripple and distort like heat waves on a summer road. The containment field connections are at 80%, Kay said. We need at least 95 for the stabilization sequence to work. Outside the reactor building, Captain Tom Reed coordinated with Covenant security forces to maintain the evacuation. The colony city's streets were filled with frightened aliens rushing toward transport ships. The ground shook with increasing frequency, and in the distance, objects could be seen floating upward as gravity itself became unstable around the reactor. How much longer? Tom asked through his communicator. At least 30 more minutes for full integration, Kay replied, her voice tight with strain. But I don't think we have that long. The reactor's degradation is accelerating. At the colony's spaceport, Ambassador Vex supervised the loading of evacuation ships. His normally perfect composure had vanished, replaced by genuine fear, as he helped children and elderly Covenant citizens board the vessels. When his communicator buzzed, he answered immediately. Ambassador, this is the High Council, came a stern voice. Our sensors detect a critical situation at the colony. What is happening? Vex swallowed hard. Reactor Destabilization Council member. We are evacuating and attempting emergency containment. With human assistance, we understand, the council member said coldly. This is unacceptable. Our technical superiority must be maintained. Vex looked around at the chaos, at the terrified faces of his people. Something shifted inside him. With respect, council member, he replied, our technical superiority is currently destroying an entire colony. The humans may be our only hope of stopping it. He ended the transmission before the council could respond and rushed back toward the reactor. There was no time for politics now. Back in the control room, Kay had made a difficult decision. We can't wait for full integration, she told Lear. We need to activate the containment field now, at partial strength. That's extremely risky, Lear objected. If the field fails, it could accelerate the breakdown. If we wait, we're guaranteed to lose the whole colony, Kay countered. Sometimes you have to take a risk. Lear studied the human's face for a moment, then nodded. What do you need from me? Manual control of the reactor's magnetic bottle, Kay said. When I activate the containment field, you'll need to precisely match its frequency to create a harmonic resonance. It's the only way to force a controlled collapse with a partial connection. That requires microsecond timing, Lear said. Even our computer systems can't guarantee that level of precision. Kay gave a grim smile. That's why we're going to do it ourselves by hand. Your people have the reflexes, and I have the knowledge of how this system works. As they prepared for this desperate attempt, Tom Reed and Dr. Alex Morgan arrived at the control room, accompanied by Ambassador Vex. The last evacuation ships are leaving now, Tom reported, but there are still over 500,000 people who won't make it out in time. Then we'd better not fail, Kay said without looking up from her work. Alex had been studying the ancient human documents on his tablet. Kay, there's something else in these records. The Ganymede incident they mentioned, they didn't just contain, they redirected the energy. Kay looked up sharply. Redirected it where? Into a controlled dimensional pocket, Alex explained. A temporary subspace that collapsed safely once the energy dissipated. Kay turned to Lear. Is there any uninhabited space nearby? Preferably without any ships or stations? Lear nodded. The asteroid field in the outer system. It's a designated hazard zone, no ships pass through it. Perfect, Kay said. We can modify the containment field to create a directional collapse, channeling the energy there instead of trying to suppress it completely. As they quickly reworked their plan, Ambassador Vex approached Tom. Captain Reed, he said quietly, I owe you and your people an apology. Our mockery of your technology was misplaced. Tom shook his head. This isn't the time for apologies, Ambassador. Let's save your people first. Vex nodded. When this is over, there will be many difficult conversations between our civilizations. Looking forward to it, Tom said with a hint of a smile. A violent tremor shook the building, stronger than any before. Alarms blared as new warnings appeared on the control screens. Dimensional rupture expanding, Lear shouted. Containment field is failing. It's now or never, Kay said, hands poised over the controls. Everyone get ready. The next few minutes were the most intense of Kay's life. As she activated the ancient human containment device, Lear matched the frequencies with incredible precision. Alex relayed critical information from the ancient documents, while Tom and Vex monitored the evacuation status and maintained communication with both Earth Command and the Covenant fleet. The reactor room filled with swirling blue energy as reality itself seemed to bend and warp. Through the reinforced windows, they could see equipment floating and distorting as if seen through rippling water. Dimensional pocket forming, Kay announced, her voice tight with concentration. Directional collapse initiated. Energy is being channeled, Lear confirmed. The asteroid field is showing massive disruption, but it's working. For one heart-stopping moment, the blue energy flared so brightly that everyone had to shield their eyes. The entire building groaned and shifted as if it might tear itself apart. Then suddenly the light dimmed and the shaking subsided. Reaction stabilizing, Lear reported, disbelief in her voice. Dimensional ruptures are closing. It's working. Kay slumped against the console, exhausted but relieved. The containment field is holding. We've redirected about 80% of the excess energy. The rest is being safely dissipated. Outside, the strange blue glow faded from the sky above the colony. Gravity returned to normal. Objects that had been floating crashed back to the ground, and the ominous rumbling ceased. Covenant control to all ships and citizens, Vex announced over the colony-wide communication system. The danger has passed. The reactor has been stabilized. I repeat, the reactor has been stabilized. Cheers erupted throughout the control room. Covenant engineers embraced each other, and several even embraced the humans. Lear approached Kay with a look of newfound respect. You saved my people, she said simply. With technology we mocked as primitive. Not primitive, Kay corrected her. Ancient. There's a difference. Tom received a communication from Earth Command. After a brief conversation, he turned to the others with a serious expression. "We've been ordered to bring Ambassador Vex and a delegation of Covenant engineers back to Earth," he announced. "The ancient facility has revealed more information about the dimensional technology, information that both our peoples need to understand." Vex nodded solemnly. "I will inform the High Council. After today's events, they will have little choice but to cooperate." As they prepared to leave the now safe reactor building, Kay took one last look at the containment module, ancient human technology that had saved an alien civilization. "Our ancestors were right to hide this technology," she said quietly to Alex. "It's incredibly powerful, but also incredibly dangerous. And now it's in the hands of multiple species across the galaxy," Alex replied. "What does that mean for all of us?" Kay had no answer for that. But as they stepped outside into the colony and saw the grateful faces of the people they had saved, she knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, humans and aliens would face them together. The mockery had ended. Now came the hard part, understanding the true legacy of humanity's forgotten past. The Grand Hall of the Galactic Assembly fell silent as Captain Tom Reed finished speaking. Behind him stood Kay Wilson, Dr. Alex Morgan, and a team of Earth scientists. Beside them, Ambassador Vex and the Covenant engineers who had witnessed the near disaster at Proxima Centauri II waited tensely for the Assembly's reaction. On the massive display screen behind them were images from Earth's ancient facility, clear evidence that humans had achieved advanced spacefaring technology, a millennium before most current civilizations had even discovered electricity. "As you can see," Tom concluded, "the dimensional drive technology currently used by the Stellar Covenant and several other Assembly members was originally developed by humans approximately 1,000 years ago. Our ancestors abandoned this technology not because it failed, but because they recognized its inherent dangers that nearly destroyed the Proxima Centauri colony 3 weeks ago." The leader of the Assembly, a wise old being named Director Mav from a species known for their scientific achievements, leaned forward. "If what you claim is true, Captain Reed, it changes our understanding of galactic history. But I must ask, why did humans lose this knowledge? How could such an advanced civilization simply forget?" Alex Morgan stepped forward. "We believe it was deliberate, Director. The records we've discovered suggest our ancestors made a conscious decision to hide this technology and remove it from our history. They feared its destructive potential and wanted humanity to rediscover space travel more gradually, more safely." Murmurs spread through the assembly chamber as representatives from 17 spacefaring civilizations grappled with this revelation. Some showed clear disbelief, others concern, and a few seemed angry. A representative from the Dorial Collective, known for their extensive historical archives, spoke next. "We have records of encountering advanced technology in abandoned systems dating back 800 to 900 years. We always assumed these were left by a now extinct species. Could these have been human outposts?" "It's possible," Alex replied. "We're still translating many of the records from the facility, but we've confirmed human settlements existed on Mars, several moons of Jupiter and Saturn, and at least 2 exoplanets in nearby star systems." Ambassador Vex, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, finally addressed the assembly. "I can confirm that the technology used in our dimensional drives matches what was found in the Earth facility. The evidence is undeniable." He paused, seeming to struggle with his next words. "The Stellar Covenant has been using imperfect copies of human technology for centuries, without understanding its origin or full principles." His admission sent shockwaves through the chamber. The Stellar Covenant had always positioned themselves as technological leaders of the Assembly. Kay Wilson spoke up. "What matters now isn't who created the technology first. What matters is that we need to work together to make it safe. The ancient humans developed potential solutions but never implemented them before they abandoned the technology. We've recovered those designs, and with the Covenant's practical experience, we believe we can create a stable, safe version of the dimensional drive." Director Mav nodded thoughtfully. "A collaboration, then?" instead of mockery and competition. Exactly, Tom agreed. Our ancestors reached for the stars too quickly, without fully understanding the dangers. They were wise enough to recognize their mistake and pull back. Now we have a second chance, not just humans, but all spacefaring species working together. The Assembly voted overwhelmingly to create a joint research initiative, with Earth and the Stellar Covenant as equal leaders. The mockery that had greeted humans at their first Assembly meeting was replaced by respect and genuine curiosity. 3. Months later, Kay Wilson stood in the observation dome of the newly established Dimensional Research Station orbiting Earth. Beside her was Lear, who had become both a colleague and friend during their work together. The modified containment systems have been installed in all 17 Covenant colony reactors, Lear reported. No more destabilization events have been recorded. Kay nodded, looking out at the stars. The shipyard on Mars has begun construction of the first test vessel using the new safe drive design. If it works as expected, interstellar travel will become both faster and safer than ever before. Your ancestors would be proud, Lear said. Their caution and wisdom may have saved countless lives across multiple civilizations. On the other side of the dome, Tom Reed and Ambassador Vex were reviewing reports from exploration teams investigating possible ancient human outposts. We've confirmed human artifacts on 3 systems so far, Tom said, including what appears to be an intact outpost on HD 4307G. My people are still struggling with this new understanding of our place in the galaxy, Vex admitted. For generations, we believed ourselves to be the most advanced spacefaring civilization. To learn that we've been using borrowed technology all along. If it helps, Tom said with a slight smile, humans are equally shocked. Our history books never mentioned any of this. We're rewriting our understanding of our own past. Perhaps that is something our people share, Vex replied. A need to rediscover who we truly are. In a secure research lab beneath the station, Dr. Alex Morgan led a team examining the oldest artifacts recovered from Earth's ancient facility. Most intriguing was a sealed container that had only recently been opened, containing what appeared to be personal logs from the leaders of the ancient human space program. Listen to this, Alex said to his colleagues, reading from a translated document. The dimensional breach near Tau Ceti revealed entities unlike anything we had encountered before. Not life as we understand it, but something else. Something that exists in the spaces between realities. They were drawn to our drive signatures like moths to flame. After what happened to the Ganymede research station, we cannot risk further contact. These entities do not appear hostile, but their mere presence destabilizes our reality. Until we understand them better, we must step back from the stars. Alex looked up at his stunned colleagues. They didn't just abandon the technology because it was unstable. They encountered something out there, something they weren't prepared to face. That evening, the station's leaders gathered for a private meeting to discuss this troubling revelation. Kay, Tom, Alex, Vex, Lear, and Director Mav sat around a table remarkably similar to the one found in the ancient facility. If these entities were drawn to the old drive signatures, Kay said, our new designs might still attract them, but we have no proof they still exist, Vex pointed out. This was 1,000 years ago. Do we tell the Assembly? Tom asked, looking at Director Mav. The old alien was quiet for a moment. Not yet. First, we must learn more. We will proceed with the new drive tests, but with extreme caution and additional sensors specifically designed to detect any unusual phenomena. As they discussed next steps, Alex couldn't help but think about the cyclical nature of the situation. 1,000 years ago, humans had reached the stars, encountered something they weren't prepared for, and retreated. Now, multiple species were poised to take that same journey together. Would the outcome be different this time? He hoped so. On Earth, in the ancient facility, researchers continued to uncover and translate more records. In a chamber that had not yet been fully explored, they found a wall covered with images, star maps with certain systems marked with warning symbols, and at the center, a single message written in the ancient script. They are waiting in the dark between stars, prepare better than we did. The truth about humanity's past had been revealed, but perhaps the greater revelation and the greater challenge still lay ahead, in the depths of space where ancient humans had gone before, and from which they had fled in fear. This time, humanity would not face that challenge alone. The hue, mockery had given way to respect, and respect had blossomed into alliance. Whatever waited between the stars would face not a single species, but a united front of all spacefaring civilizations. And perhaps that was what the ancient humans had hoped for all along.